Welcome to the Demand Generation Club podcast, the first podcast exclusively dedicated to B2B demand generation secrets and best practices as shared by some of the top leaders in the industry. This podcast is brought to you by SaaS MQL, the account-based marketing agency based in Redwood City, California. They help venture-funded SaaS companies scale demand generation from target accounts. By combining intent data, automation, and a proven methodology, SaaS MQL can help your startup generate millions of dollars in sales opportunities within a few months. To learn more, go to saasmql.com.
So I'm here today with Jennifer Durishin, who is the head of marketing at Prodigal. Hi, Jennifer. Welcome to the Demand Generation Club.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. So from right away, I want to ask you, how did you end up becoming the head of marketing at Prodigal?
Well, it's after years of working in marketing, I started my marketing career at a CPG company called Abbott Nutrition and made my way over to B2B at a big corporation, and then made my way over to startups, and I absolutely love it.
And how did you get from consumer companies to B2B? What kind of attracted you there?
Yeah, I mean, it's an experience. So I started with B2C, and then I got experience B2B2C. So through agencies, insurance agents specifically, and then to consumers, and then was more specifically focused on just insurance agents. And so that's where I got my B2B experience. And so that's what kind of got me hooked on B2B. So I absolutely think it's a blast, and we're always learning something new and pushing hard every single day.
Yeah, and I'm noticing that once you get to B2B, you never go back to B2C.
Yes. I think it's similar to with B2B and also startups. I mean, once you get the startup bug, you just never want to go back. So I would say those are both the same.
That's very true. And so what are your responsibilities at Prodigal?
Yeah, so like you said, I'm the head of marketing here at Prodigal. I've been here over a year now and lead all things marketing. So whether it be brand, demand gen, lead gen, PR, everything in between, design, content, product marketing, we got the whole side. Right now, I even have BDRs reporting through marketing. I don't think it matters where they report to, as long as we have good connection. But even have that, and even have a UX designer on my team. So pretty awesome, no dull moment, and always more to do than we have time for. So prioritization is really key.
And how big is the company? How big is Prodigal?
So we're less than 5 million ARR, but growing really well. And so really excited to keep on growing and scaling this company.
And how many people, more or less, in terms of employees?
We have about 60 to 70 people full-time at Prodigal right now.
Perfect. And I always like to ask this question is, what is your favorite tech stack as a head of marketing?
Yes, it's funny because we use so many as marketers these days, and I'm in multiple tools. And but my favorite one, purely because of the user experience, is HubSpot. I've used Pardot, I've used Marketo. I think HubSpot is just very easy to use, review, and even get some of the reporting from it. So I really enjoy it, and I think it's a pleasant experience.
I 100% agree. I used to be, a Salesforce Marketo person, but then right now I'm fully converted to HubSpot as well.
Yeah, and their marketing's pretty good too. I love their content marketing. I think they're a great case study for all of us in B2B as well.
Absolutely. So obviously working in a company at that stage, like you're 60, 70 people, I'm sure, you have to be very, very careful with the marketing budget and be super, super selective on how you spend it. So I would like to know from you, like, how are you able to successfully generate engagement, leads, pipeline opportunities with a limited budget, right, that every startup has in marketing? How do you approach that?
Yeah, so great question. I think for us, and probably like a lot of SaaS companies too, I mean, it's the days today are you got to be watching your budget, and you got to do more with less. Maybe your budget remains flat, so that's good, but how do you squeeze and get more out of it? And so one of the things that we're doing is also leaning into the channels that are working. We know events is our number one lead, or where we get our best leads, most qualified leads. And so we're obviously looking and evaluating those events where we do best, but also, reevaluating, do we actually need to exhibit at every one of, the ones we've exhibited in the past, or can we just attend? We know enough people. Or, hey, we stopped sending our big booth because frankly, that was just a lot of money and shipping is crazy. And so we don't need to send that anymore. So we have like a tabletop exhibit, and that's totally fine. And then one thing we're really trying to do more of too is because we know thought leadership is really important in B2B, and you can't always be just pushing your product, but really empathizing with your customers or your prospects and their pain points. And so we're really working closely with even event organizers to submit more speaking opportunities, obviously not just us as a vendor, but with our customers, and be on those panels so we can get our name out there in different ways. So we're making a really concerted effort to get more speaking opportunities on those panels accepted.
Are you already planning for next year events, or is
Yeah, no, that 2024 calendar started. And frankly, I mean, some of these speaking opportunities, like they try to plan, 6 months in advance. So also we're studying, hey, what are some of those topics that we know are, really hot ones? So we're an AI company. We've been an AI company before, ChatGPT. And so how do we lean into that? Because we know a lot of people have questions about how do I use AI in my business? So we can leverage that and make get those opportunities to get in front of those audiences and lend our expertise.
And kind of from this, you mentioned something when we were talking, Jennifer, about being also selective on who you target, because as a Series A or Series B, Series C startups, you cannot target too many industries, too many types of companies, right? You have to be very, very focused on your target. How do you kind of strategize around your ICP?
Yeah, so great question. So I didn't even really tell you what Prodigal does or who we are. So we're a vertical SaaS company, Series A specifically, but means we're venture backed, and vertical SaaS meaning we're targeting one specific segment, one specific industry, and that's consumer finance for us. And so what we're doing is we're targeting those companies to modernize the loan and lending, the lender servicing and loan operations lifecycle, and bringing software and intelligence to those players. So it can be anyone from collection agencies, auto finance companies, revenue cycle management companies, anyone who has a customer interaction with any sort of company where they're talking about money, car payments, medical debt, credit card debt, anything. And so there's a lot of different companies in that space, all with that through line of a vertical SaaS of the consumer finance industry. And so what we're doing, even though our customers, I named a bunch of different types of customers that would be applicable for us, the hardest thing is those customers, even though they're in our vertical, they don't go to the same conferences, they don't read the same publications. So what we're doing, trying to do more with less too, is really doing a lot of quick testing and learning and saying, okay, hey, let's go after collection agencies, kind of where we started, where we've been successful early on. And then, hey, we're seeing some good progress with auto finance companies. We know prices of cars are going up, interest rates are going up. So how do we then target those? And the last one is our healthcare, medical debt keeps going up. It's usually unplanned, but a lot of hospitals outsource their billing and collections to third-party revenue cycle management companies. So we're seeing some good success with those. There's not a ton of those. So how do we double down and go after them as much as possible and help them with their needs? So we're super excited about that, but speed is the name of the game here too, and identify those most likely prospects that we can convert. And
these are obviously 3 different segments that you guys are targeting, and you have to build, I'm assuming, different messaging, the value proposition is different. So how do you manage to run 3 or more parallel campaigns when you don't have a large team in-house?
Yeah. So I mean, believe it or not, their pain points are all very similar. They're struggling to hire people to fill these roles. They can't retain them. It's hard to train them, or they leave a lot. And so they have a lot of pain in the hiring space. All of these industries too are very much they're compliance driven because they're regulated by a federal agency. And so minimizing compliance, maximizing revenue, mitigating expenses, or minimizing expenses are all areas that they're all have that similar through line. It's just some of the language we use is different. Instead of calling them a borrower, we'll call them patients. And so we try to rinse and repeat as much as we can with our content, but make sure it applies to that specific persona and that specific segment that we're going after.
One more question on this is, obviously, all of 3 segments will require budget, right? How do you shift budget between one segment to the other? Do you look at revenue generated pipeline, leads? How do you decide how to distribute your budget, your marketing budget?
Yeah, I mean, so at the end of the day, it's coming down to like back to that testing and learning. So running a couple of campaigns, simultaneously, and then saying, hey, what was that cost per lead? Which of those is converting over to SQLs? Which of those is converting over to ops? Which of those is converting to closed won? And then saying, okay, how do we go back after that? If it's been successful and we're doing the best there, how do we go after another set of prospects in that same industry segment? And so that's kind of how we're doing it, measuring and learning every step of the way. And then when we see something that's working, focusing our attention on that before you find that next best opportunity.
Perfect. That's great. You mentioned something at the beginning of the episode, which is you have your SDRs or BDRs reporting to you, so to marketing. How did you make that decision, and what is exactly their role?
Yeah, so like I said too, that's just what we're doing right now. I think there's been a lot of debate in the B2B world, especially in the SaaS world too, about who should they report to. And it's a fun, headline, but at the end of the day, I don't think it really matters. What's most important, and we're seeing some good success, is that making sure the BDRs and SDRs, because I know sometimes people say BDRs inbound, sometimes SDRs outbound. We're not as strict about that here, but how do we make sure that there's good alignment and that they're aware of what marketing campaigns we're running, so they can quickly follow up with any engaged accounts with a personalized message and outreach, whether it be call or email or reaching out to them on LinkedIn. And we're seeing that good connection is really, really key to get some movement and then get those warm leads over to our account executive and sales team.
So they are only focused on warm leads. They don't go after cold prospects or accounts.
Right now, we've got enough work for them to be following up with those engaged accounts, and so we are trying to get more BDRs because we're seeing some success, and there's enough volume that we need more people to handle some of this. So that's what's working right now.
That's great. I have one more question on that. So how do you make them prioritize different lead sources? For example, when you have an event that you're sponsoring, but you also have leads coming from your content or from your ads, who do they go after first? Do you have a scoring system, or like how do you help them prioritize?
Yeah, I mean, so what because there's been a lot of what do I go after? So we're right now, we're just having weekly calls. I just got off of one earlier today just to say, okay, this is the focus. We just finished this. This is what's coming up next. These are the campaigns we're running. This should be the top priority accounts right now. So right now it's just, we haven't formalized it with a scorecard, but we'll certainly be heading that way. So right now it's just more, our team is not huge, so we can talk through it together. But yeah, like I said too, at some of these B2B SaaS companies, there's always more work to do and not enough time to do it. And so prioritization is the name of the game.
Absolutely. So I have a few more questions for you, Jennifer. The first one is, what are some of the initiatives that you're going to focus on for the next few months?
Yeah, so one thing, actually two big things. I think all of us in marketing are talking about AI, obviously our company uses AI in our products and services, but we as marketers know there's a lot of opportunity there. And so how do we leverage it to help us do more and go faster? One thing we know today is AI is probably just going to get better over time in a lot of these services, but help it to do that initial outreach. But we know it's not the final product. So we need a human in there to tweak it and customize it and make sure we all look like we're smart and done a lot of research. So that's number one, just getting better about testing and learning in that space. And then number two, I'm actually hiring an event and content marketing manager. So if you know of any good candidates or anyone would love to join our team, I'm hiring. And like I said, events is right now our number one lead channel. So really, really important role for us.
That's fantastic. I'll definitely let you know if I hear someone who is looking. I'm sure it's going to be exciting to join your team. What is one thing that you wish you knew at the beginning of your career in B2B marketing?
In B2B marketing, I would say the number one thing in a career, in a business career, I'll just broaden it a little bit, is always be networking. No matter what, even if you're doing great in a role, you want to make sure you're always reaching out. You don't want to just forget about people. You never know when your paths are going to cross again. And so it's maintaining your personal brand, making sure you continue to network, because that's how a lot of business gets done these days. So I would say invest the time and the effort to make sure you're always networking, even a couple of times a week.
That's great. And again, for the people that are at the beginning of their demand generation and B2B marketing career, what is one mistake they should avoid, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake in B2B is that people say, oh, it's so different from B2C. We're not talking to consumers. And it's like, well, actually in B2B, we know at the end of the day, we're still selling to humans, and humans buy from other humans. And so we have to, think about leveraging more of the B2C marketing tactics and pulling them over to B2B. I think that's going to make us even better marketers over time and help us grow even more. So don't minimize B2C in that space.
I 100% agree. Jennifer, it was great speaking with you today. Thank you again for sharing your knowledge with the Demand Generation Club. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. That was a lot of fun.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Demand Generation Club podcast. If you're curious about how we're landing enterprise deals and unlocking millions in recurring revenue using account-based marketing and integrated direct mail campaigns, check out our website, saasmql.com. That's SAASMQL.com. We share tons of content every week on tried and true strategic ABM initiatives that actually generate pipeline from enterprise accounts. Thanks for tuning in.